Greg Henhawk, Mohawk of the Bear Clan, Ganyot Gahaga, Niwagot Mansoda, Ogwale, Niwagit Dalonto. I'm also Bear Clan. And I'm from Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. As far as a job title goes, I'm a consultant, do contract work, piece work. My major project right now is I'm the lead mentor for physical literacy in Indigenous communities in the North. I'm a retired teacher, I guess, probably for other people would know me as, but coach, master facilitator, I don't know, whatever hat I have to wear on a particular days is really kind of my job title. The coaching course that I help develop and that I deliver and I train facilitators and master facilitators for, it's about the medicine wheel that I'm seeing right down in front of me here. There's 4 aspects to every being, and you know each one of those is of equal size, so that means they're all important. You don't just zero in. Where coaching tends to be the physical aspect of a person is the only thing, is probably 90% of what they do, and they might do a little bit of mental, maybe, but the mental is just, you got to be mentally tough, or water is for the weak, with some coaches. But in reality, your mental wellness is as important as any other aspect of you. And so I've always promoted that in all of my coaching. I probably wasn't even aware of it as much until I started getting involved 20 years ago with the Aboriginal coaching modules, or 25 years ago when the concept started. But there are a lot of things that I've done throughout my career where people would ask me, what's the reason you do that? Like, why you do that? And I said, because it just makes sense, because of the way I was brought up and the knowledge that I've been exposed to. So, and again, I wasn't always aware of it. It was something that I had to figure out and learn. My grandfather used to say he'd tell me something and he would answer a question with a question. I'd ask him, what's that mean? He go, you'll figure it out, type of thing. And so it was always being curious. And I think, again, that's the missing thing, is that people aren't curious enough to work through things. I'm done with that. That's long enough. Why don't you just give me the answer? I've had students, I've had players say that. They'll say, you ask us questions instead of answering our questions. Why don't you just tell us? And I said, because if I just tell you, you're not going to listen. I think the interesting dynamic with learners, students, athletes, a lot of times they might get to a point where they'll be, don't tell me what to do. And yet they'll turn right around in a heartbeat and say, darn it, why don't you tell me what to do instead of just, leaving me on my own? And I said, well, that's just part of the dynamic. Learning to take that chance. They need to be able to put themselves outside of that comfort zone and be comfortable with it. And realize that the only constant in the world is change. And so you have to be prepared to adapt. And like I said, I don't think the world does that very well. They don't promote adapting and flexibility. It promote the education system, the governance system, the justice system promotes one way. When you look at the bigger picture of that, the philosophy of doing that self-analysis and being self-critical, then that's the other pitfall, in that people then become overly critical of themselves. They're not able to feel happy with what they're able to do and what they will learn. And even if you don't learn it, not everybody can do absolutely everything. So again, you find the gift, you find the role, you find where you fit in, and it's okay if it's not what somebody else wants. And that's where the tenet within Indigenous philosophies, you don't tell someone what to do. But what that means is, it doesn't mean that you don't discipline if you're in a position of authority or responsibility or even care. What it means is that you can't choose their life path for them. You can't force them down a certain road just because that's the way you want it to be. And so I think that's the real essence of, that whole thing, that whole picture of just knowing that it's a whole process. Like it's your mental health is affected by your culture. Your mental wellness, more than health, is affected by your thinking. With mental wellness, not necessarily mental health. And so even just a difference in terminology, sometimes a small tweak in the terminology, because again, in indigenous languages, including Inuktitut, there's not literal translations to English. So talking about wellness is the way that Inuit would talk about things. They wouldn't talk about mental health. They would talk about mental wellness. So just knowing that small difference, and you say, well, what's the difference? Well, there is. And so it's very similar to other terms. There's no word for right in any indigenous language I've ever encountered. There's no translation for right, because right is definitive. Right means that, okay, there's wrong, there's evil, there's bad, there's one way. Where in indigenous language, it's good. So good leaves room for better, and it also leaves room for creativity. It also leaves room for adaptability and change. And when necessary change is needed, that's what you do. So that small tweak can make a huge difference on someone's perspective, but it also makes a difference on their mental wellness. And so again, you have to make sure that you're looking at all aspects, not just one. You might zoom in on it for a little bit, but you also have to remember that it's all connected. I am doing what I do, which is asking a lot of questions.